CNN Today continues with breaking news coming to you out of the United States, and that is that the legendary and long-time Democratic Senator Teddy Kennedy has died. We have just received word of that. Kennedy was, of course, a member of the Kennedy political dynasty, really, in the United States. He was the brother of President John F. Kennedy and Senator Robert Kennedy, both of whom, as you'll recall, were assassinated. And Teddy Kennedy is one of only 6 senators in U.S. history that served for more than 40 years. He really made a very successful career in the Senate and was a very, very key figure in the Democratic Party. Most specifically, you may recall, last year he played a very important role in the Democratic nomination process when he came out and backed the then Senator Barack Obama for the Democratic nomination. That was a huge boost to the now President Barack Obama. Very, very important contribution from the Kennedy family there. He really was, in later years, the spokesman for the Kennedy family and was in office right up until his death. He was seen on the public scene even very recently during the reform debates over the social health reform in the United States. His health had been suffering of late. We know that he suffered seizures during 2008, and it was actually announced in May of last year that he had a malignant brain tumor. But despite that, he was able to continue serving in office. Let's cross now to Dana Bash, who has been looking back at the glittering career of Teddy Kennedy.
We first met him as the kid brother to Jack and Bobby, and yet Edward, Teddy, was the survivor. The one we watched grow old, evolve into the patriarch, and struggle with the challenge and burden of carrying the Kennedy torch. Edward Moore Kennedy was born February 22nd, 1932, the last of Joe and Rose Kennedy's 9 children. His first prominent role in the family business of politics came at age 30. JFK was elected president, and Teddy kept his Senate seat in the family.
The President of the United States is dead.
He was 31 when he said goodbye to Jack. 5 years later, in 1968, another assassination, another goodbye. Bobby this time. Often invoking his brothers, Ted Kennedy turned to make his mark in the Senate in the 60s and 70s, a proud liberal, champion of voting rights and civil rights. In 1980, he set his sights on the White House, but perhaps the most haunting of his personal demons, Chappaquiddick, 11 years earlier, would block his path.
I regard as indefensible the fact that I did not report the accident to the police immediately.
In 1969, Kennedy drove his car off the Chappaquiddick Bridge, and 19-year-old Mary Jo Kopechne, a former aide to brother Robert, drowned. Ted Kennedy fled the scene. It was a character stain he could not overcome. He would lose his bid to beat President Carter, but he promised to carry on in one of his most famous speeches.
The work goes on, the cause endures, the hope still lives, and the dream shall never die.
He would not be president, but he would master the Senate and make his mark on government policy.
If we really care about work, about families, about children, and the future, we will vote for an increase in the minimum wage for all workers.
Fighting for workers' rights, leading on education and health care reform.
It is morally right. It's what this nation is all about.
And immigration reform.
Si se puede!
I described Ted Kennedy as the last lion in the Senate. Held that view because he remains the single most effective member of the Senate if you want to get results.
To get those results, liberal Kennedy learned the art of compromise, sometimes angering fellow Democrats by partnering with ardent conservatives.
Even though we fight each other most of the time, and those are knockdown, drag-out battles, I have to say there are very few people in my lifetime that I've had more respect and now reverence for than Senator Kennedy.
All too often, it fell to Uncle Teddy, the patriarch, to steer the family through trials and tragedy. The death of Jackie Onassis, a more painful goodbye to JFK Jr., and the dreams of Camelot. His hunch and shuffle, the legacy of a brush with death in the 1960s, a plane crash that broke his back and caused constant pain. He brought some pain on himself. Dogged by too much drinking, a messy divorce, Kennedy was frequent fodder for tabloids. But he remarried, carried on, added to his policy accomplishments.
I've come to admire him. He's a smart, capable senator. You want him on your side, I can tell you that.
And he stepped once again into presidential politics, bypassing Hillary Clinton and hearkening back to Brother Jack's call for a new generation of leadership.
I'm proud to stand with them here today and offer my help, offer my voice, offer my energy, my commitment to make Barack Obama the next president of the United States.
Just 5 months later, he had a seizure, followed by a grim diagnosis, a malignant brain tumor. Still, with great drama, he made it to the Democratic convention to pass the torch.
The hope rises again, and the dream lives on.
He ignored his doctors and, when needed, came back to his beloved Senate.
I look forward to being a part of the team.
And made a dramatic appearance at a White House summit on health care reform.
I'm looking forward to being a foot soldier in this undertaking, and this time we will not fail. Thank you. How are you?
He never stopped looking forward and never lost that trademark smile. To the end, the survivor. Dana Bash, CNN, Washington.
We're now looking at live pictures of the Kennedy compound in Hyannisport in Massachusetts, where Edward Kennedy died a short time ago. We're hearing that he died at home at the age of 77 following a lengthy battle with brain cancer. And we've also just received a statement from the Kennedy family, which reads, Edward M. Kennedy, the husband, father, grandfather, brother, and uncle we loved so deeply, died late Tuesday night at home in Hyannisport. We've lost the irreplaceable center of our family and joyous light in our lives, but the inspiration of his faith, optimism, and perseverance will live on in our hearts forever. We thank everyone who gave him care and support over this last year, and everyone who stood with him for so many years in this tireless march for progress toward justice, fairness, and opportunity for all. He loved this country and devoted his life to serving it. He always believed that our best days were still ahead, but it is hard to imagine any of them without him. Just to recap, the legendary Democratic Senator Edward Kennedy has died at his home at the age of 77.